Good evening, everybody. It's Thursday night, and you know what that means. Real monsters are in the house. Well, I mean, not really in the house, I hope, but you know what I mean. The show's in your house, but I mean, just because you're listening to it. We're not broadcasting from your house or anything. Hey, this is
Understand.
SK, and with me we have the fantastic Wes
Hello, hello, hello. We
and
might be in your attic broadcasting, so listen for that.
the the show's coming from inside the house.
Hmm.
And the always delightful Kelly Evans.
Hey, yeah, I was thinking under the bed, but that's going a whole other direction than the attic, I think. So yeah, stay away from that.
Right. And tonight we have a very special episode, Mothers That Kill. And we don't mean they're funny. Um,
Nope, not
no.
in the least.
No.
Because that would be a drastic departure from the Thursday night topics.
Would be very different. Very different. And so we have three very bizarre mothers to talk about.
That
And
we do.
where should we start? Should we start with Yates?
Sure, let's do it.
Andrea Yates.
I didn't
Oh,
have a particular order in mind, but I do have about 5 pages of notes on our other one. So, yeah, Andrea Yates, postpartum depression.
is that
Did
what
you?
Yeah.
is that your take on it?
I think it was postpartum depression that got to the level of psychosis, which you don't see too often. The stats were about for regular postpartum, that is without psychotic features, about 20% of moms get that.
Okay, so we should let people who don't know who she is, just they might know her she's the woman who was accused of drowning her 5 children. All on the same day. So they were ranging in ages from, I think the youngest was about 6 months and the eldest was about 6 or 7, I think.
Yep.
Uh, and that's what she was. So she went through a
Age,
series.
yeah, age 7, 5, 3, 2, and 6 months.
Yeah, there you go. So she went, I mean, just basically just a little bit of background. She did have the postpartum thing going, but she also had the schizophrenia. She went through a series of like a couple of divorces. Um, she was sort of in and out of treatment for quite a while. And it ended with her drowning her 5 children on the same day. So that's
In the family bathtub.
in the family bathtub. Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
was
That,
So,
this was 2001, just
yeah.
that
for
So
was around the
reference.
time that she stopped taking her Haldol, too.
yeah, well, she got pregnant with her last child and she was on really heavy medication that was actually working really well for her. And I guess with pregnancy related issues, you can't take certain medications. So I guess she took herself off of it. She was advised not to get pregnant again from doctors. They told her that the psychosis would only get worse. But they went ahead and had kids because I guess there was a religious element to it that I guess we might discuss later, but they were firm believers in just as many kids as possible.
Hmm.
And yeah, she was still off the medication 6 months after her last son was born, and Yeah, she waited until her husband went to work. He was sort of leaving her for an hour at a time each day just to get her a little bit more independent. And as soon as he left, she filled the bathtub and killed them all.
Holy shit. That's that is that's the mental health profession doesn't like the term crazy, but Jesus, that was crazy. I
Well,
mean, in a very clinical sense.
I was kind of reading up about her a little bit, and the whole, the postpartum, I don't understand why that wasn't maybe at the time it wasn't taken as seriously as it is these days. Because I know her original verdict was overturned, and she was sent to a state mental institution because I guess they were taking it a little bit more seriously, the insanity plea. But she had signs, and there were doctors who recognized it, and there was just so much. I don't know, either it was missed or I think her husband played a very significant role. I don't know. It just seems like there's a huge amount that was missed.
He's been lobbying to actually get her freed from the hospital. Her husband.
Well, I
Wow.
guess it
Are
I
they
guess it's
Yeah,
they're still married then?
I
I
think
thought he
so, as
I
far as
thought
I
he
know.
I thought he divorced her and then married someone else and then they got divorced. Hang on, might
I know he's been trying to get her out of there. Maybe that's on good terms. I'm not sure.
maybe, yeah. Let's see. No, it doesn't say much about him.
Yeah,
I thought
Russell Yates.
Yeah, I thought I read that they had actually got divorced shortly after he killed, like they couldn't get over the murders, and he had ended up marrying someone else, and they divorced in 2015. So maybe he's back with her. I'm not sure. Yeah, yeah. They got divorced in 2004, and then he married someone else, someone called Laura Arnold, and then they married in 2006. So not that long after the divorce was granted, and then she filed divorce in 2015. So maybe he's back together with her. Maybe some sort of sympathy. I don't know.
Wow.
It could be. I mean, and you were talking a bit about that religious element in there. A big part of that, from what I was understanding from the sources, was the delusion that Satan would be tormenting the children if she didn't kill them.
Yeah, she was under the impression that she was a very, very bad mother and that it was too late and that it was too late for the children. She had already, even the 6 month old, she had already raised them and she was such a bad mother that there was even no point in the children even living anymore because they were already damned by her poor motherhood, which was obviously, I think I don't know, I don't, is there more than postpartum going on there? That just seems like more the schizophrenia, psychosis type thing coming out.
It could be psychotic depression, which happens. Um, and I'm not sure the exact numbers of that, but it is very rare.
Yeah.
So, that kind of, that's pretty clearly, schizophrenia. I mean, that's exactly the kind of behaviors you get out of schizophrenia.
Oh,
The
Yeah.
exactly. And the
um,
other big thing, I guess, with her symptoms was hearing voices. I didn't see anywhere where there was actual visual hallucinations, but she
well,
did
No,
have
I
the auditory.
they're not always
Yeah, I
visual,
know.
right? Yeah, yeah.
but
Just
she
how it presents.
but then a couple of years before she actually did it, she'd actually told her psychiatrist at the time that she had considered killing them. And I just don't understand. She seems to have been either bounced around as a result of that they had to move a couple of times. Their family situation got a little bit worse off because they had to move because of his job, and they ended up in sort of like smaller and smaller places. So I don't know if her medical records didn't get transferred. Apparently, one doctor didn't even bother reading the previous doctor's notes, which said, don't let this woman get pregnant again. Make sure she's on this drug. I don't know. She just seems to have been sort of like, I don't know, kind of lost through a net.
Yeah, I mean, you know, uh, postpartum depression was a pretty well known thing, definitely by 2001. Um,
Yeah,
Even back in the 80s, I know that it was a thing that
yeah,
was known and uh, we started seeing these mothers who were with postpartum depression doing stuff like this, like in the 80s.
So So basically, what happened with the jury, like her first trial, basically the jury convicted her, but instead of getting the death penalty, they felt sorry for her a little bit, I guess, and so she was given, I think, life in prison with no chance of parole for like 40 years or something like that. But then in 2006, there was a retrial because a testimony of one of the doctors was proven false. He said she was, what was it? She was influenced by a Law and Order television show that had a mother drowning her children, and the writers of the show said, "No, we certainly didn't write that show." So because of his testimony, there was a retrial. And I believe maybe, and I don't know, I haven't looked into it. I'm wondering if the laws at the time had changed, because she was actually then let off because of insanity. Like, not let off. She had to go to a psychiatric hospital.
Hmm.
But instead of being in prison or given the death penalty or life in prison, that sort of thing, I'm just wondering whether in the time in between the definition of insanity then included postpartum, or whether there was something else in her case that led them to believe that insanity was more appropriate, or whatever the case is, she was then committed.
And is still serving, I
And it's,
believe.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Maladjusted has a question. Is there any documents that have clearly outlined her list of diagnostics? And yeah, there's plenty of evidence came out in the trial from both Dr. Saeed and Dr. Ellen Starbranch,
yeah.
um, outlining the diagnoses. Um,
It's not only the diagnoses; they give her exact like medication
and
dosages, and how
yes,
she was
yes.
given like a heavy dose, and then she went down to a lower dose, and how it affected her. And there's actually quite a bit of detail out there. I was surprised.
Yeah, and Dr. Starbranch is quoted as uh, in her records as saying, apparently, patient and husband plan to have as many babies as nature will allow! Exclamation
Yep,
point. This will surely guarantee future psychotic depression.
yep. And this was when she was at 4 kids, I think, or three or four kids. So she hadn't had the last kid
Yeah.
yet, and she was actually doing a lot better. She was on that. Sorry, I don't remember the name of the medication you mentioned.
Haldol.
The hell, yeah. And she was doing very well. And then because of the pregnancy, she stopped taking it, and she didn't start up again.
Well,
Well, and that's such a huge issue with these sorts of things is that the treatments for depression are so, not
there,
even really hit and miss. They suck. They need to move forward.
they,
Need
Yeah.
better
right.
ways to treat it.
But there's so many
They,
different
yeah.
elements that you take into consideration, and pregnancy throws just about everything out of whack.
Antidepressants have a lot of unpleasant side effects. And and if you're, for example, a creative type, um, you lose a lot of that ability to create when you're on antidepressants, and that's why
Yeah.
so many creative people won't take them.
I'm one of those. I don't take them.
Yeah.
But the
Um,
But
other thing there is how long they take to work.
right.
before you even consider how long they take to work, before you just it comes down to, are you a danger to yourself? Are you a danger to others? Then you need to be medicated. You need something. You need to get
Right.
help.
Well,
So
and oddly enough, some of the antidepressants cause suicidal thoughts.
Right.
How
yeah,
bizarre is that?
I see a lot of commercials since we moved over here. Like I used to live in England, and they didn't have these commercials for medication over there. And when we first moved back, after being away for like 20 years, all these commercials that were like the list of side effects,
It just
and
goes
every
on and on.
single medication seems to cause depressive episodes, psychotic episodes, sleepwalking episodes, depression. It's just, oh my God.
They might have a way to move forward with that actually with sub anesthetic ketamine.
Ketamine,
It,
yes.
is a
Yes,
forthcoming treatment on that. But I mean, they
Isn't
take
that like
so long to work. But if you're a danger to yourself, they can always restrain you in other ways.
but
yeah,
but
there's different
But
rules
the
for that.
meds are just crap for the most part.
they really are. The ketamine shows a lot of promise,
Wait a minute,
and they're
wait.
and
Is ketamine a horse tranquilizer?
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, just checking. Thanks.
The way that it works is actually cutting off your nervous system from the pain receptors. And they've been giving people sub-anesthetic doses of it who are,
Okay.
severely, majorly depressed. And
Yeah.
it's worked for, I think, in most people, about 6 months. And
Huh.
fast, too.
yeah. You don't. It's not a pill you take at home. You go into the clinic,
Right.
you get an injection, and you stay there for 2 hours while you work through the initial side effects. You make
Oh my
sure that
God.
Yeah.
and make sure you're okay, but then you don't have to come back for a week.
Right.
It sounds dreadful.
I don't know.
I don't. I think it would be a lot less dreadful than an antidepressant, a
Yeah. Well,
conventional one.
yeah, I guess. Well, I know a lot of people that take them, and it all depends on what works for you. Different medications work for different people, and for some people, it just takes years to find the right combination of things to work. So, if you find what works, great. If you don't, or if you move around, or if you abandon the process partway through, like maybe happened here, then yeah, you're pretty much screwed.
Yeah, it's yeah, and the schizophrenia thing though, that's just, I mean, the depression's bad enough on
But
its
then,
own, but then
yeah,
having the schizophrenia on top of that, that's just that is a disaster waiting to happen. You can't go off of that medication, that one, just
no,
that.
no, you cannot. But that comes back to, yeah, sure, there's probably side effects, but if you're a danger, if you're in danger of hurting other people or in any way, shape, or form, or hurting yourself, then you have to do something about it.
You have to do something.
And this woman found something that actually worked. And yeah, it's just a shame that I guess maybe no one was treating her at the time, or they just didn't follow up with her. I don't know. If someone had followed up with her in the weeks after she got pregnant or after she gave birth, none of this might have happened. I don't know.
Oh, she went to Devereaux. That's where Deadman worked for a while,
Oh wow.
right? Isn't that right, Deadman? Anyway, um, uh, yeah, schizophrenia is a strange affliction, um, and it's just, man, it's so tough to manage that, and it's so tough. So one of the problems with the medications is um, it, that people on different medications, antidepressants, antipsychotics, anti whatever schizophrenics take, um, anti schizophrenics.
Anti-schizophrenics, yeah.
Well,
um,
that would be pills that regulate the dopamine in your head. That's fundamentally what schizophrenia is a dopamine
uh,
processing disorder.
Okay.
so what happens is that you get uh, on these medications for a while, and you start living a fairly normal life, and you start thinking, oh, I'm better. I don't
Yeah.
I don't need the medications because I'm better now.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then people go off of them because they think it's them, but it's not. It's the meds.
Yeah, I've heard of that happening an awful lot. But
Yeah.
but how many of the other like the other people you've talked about on this show had that similar sort of situation, like a schizophrenia, or like there seems to be a common thread here.
Actually, off the top of my head, only one of them. That'd be Ed Gein.
Oh,
He had
really?
a,
Okay.
Yeah.
he had a diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia.
Right. Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, not all of, Bundy, BTK, these guys were not mentally ill.
Yeah, yeah. The majority of them weren't, but I don't think we've covered any others with it, have we?
I don't think so.
Besides Geen? Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so
I
that's
mean,
what's that should alarm people as much as anything that most of these killers that we've covered in these 15 episodes are not mentally ill.
Sorry,
right.
you're trying to tell people that their next door neighbor who looks exactly like them and cuts his lawn and
Hmm.
you know, keeps the flowers
Especially
trimmed.
the ones that cut their lawns.
Oh, yeah.
We've got people that cut their lawn at 7:30 in the morning. I'm wondering about these people.
Yes,
There's
they're
something wrong with them.
very wrong. Yeah, the ones if they spend more than 2 hours a week on their lawn, they are meant they be careful of those people.
Oh God, you should see my street. Every single frickin' lawn except for mine is like pristine. It's
Yeah.
creepy.
Yeah. I wonder if you could do that, like go through a neighborhood. Oh, there's a writer, there's an artist, there's a musician, just by looking at their yards.
That would be an awesome Criminal Minds episode, actually. Just have them riding through wherever Chicago or New York, going, "Yep, that's a serial killer. Yep, that one is." I would watch that show.
Yeah. All right. Diane Downs. Elizabeth Diane Downs. This one.
I don't. I don't under. I'm kind of confused by this one because did she do it or didn't she? I've seen like did she kill her children or didn't
Yeah,
she?
oh, absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
am I the only one? Is this just me, or do you want to? I'll let you tell the story.
Go ahead, Wes. Give us a summary.
Diane Downs, her three children, were in their car on a ride in a country road in 1983 in Springfield, Oregon, at night when allegedly she was carjacked by a man who was basically hitchhiking. And she fought back, and her three kids got shot. Only one of them died, although the other two had wounds that were major.
And she got
Uh,
shot.
Diane got shot in the arm,
Yeah,
allegedly.
allegedly.
Well, she was wounded
That's
in the
the
arm.
story.
Yeah.
She did have an arm wound.
But the police don't buy that story. They didn't buy it in 1983, and I can't say as I blame them. It's the big thing there when you're what mother in their right mind would stop to pick somebody up in that situation? Seriously.
This is a
I
very good point.
mean, it's nighttime, you're on a country road that's isolated, next to no traffic, next to no homes,
Hmm.
and you pick up some random guy.
Right.
Yeah, that. Yeah. Okay.
Nope. Oh,
It makes no
and
sense.
if I recall, it wasn't even her normal route between wherever points she was going. It was
No, it
it was some out of the way route.
no, and allegedly after all this happened, she claimed that she drove to the hospital because she did get there after it happened as fast as she could down that road. But the police also had an eyewitness who was behind her saying no, she was driving below the speed limit,
Mm,
which if you stage this scene, you're going to want to do that till the kids bleed out
right.
if that's your goal. Um,
I
but
understand
then
she was also very, very calm when she arrived. She wasn't like freaking out or anything.
she was. And the other thing I think that really tipped them off there was the wound pattern analysis of particularly the bullet that struck Diane in the left forearm. There's no way that it could have landed the way it did with the scene she described. So,
One of the
it,
thing, yeah, and there was something about finding the casing um, in uh, another casing out of place for how she described the shootings of the kids, like
Oh, I didn't catch that part. Okay.
it was in one of the documentaries about her that it was one of the things that really uh, finalized the case against her.
Hmm. Well, interesting. And then, like her other behavior, like Kelly, you were saying, where she was calm at the hospital.
Yeah.
Her little daughter, Christy, ended up having a stroke, but got out of it. But later on, after that, Diane allegedly was, shall we say, a little bit more than eager to pull the plug on her.
Oh, really?
She walked in to the hospital, and the other thing that the investigators and doctors were noticing was that there was a sort of fear reaction on Kelly's part when she
Yeah.
saw her mom. So,
Right. Okay.
yeah,
Well, I
that
guess
and then threatening to pull the plug.
apparently, I guess it's Christine, right? The girl,
Yeah.
Christy,
Christy. She had it after the stroke. She wasn't able to speak.
yeah,
And I don't know. I wasn't able to find out if or when she did regain her ability to speak. But I guess that also was very handy for for Diane because here's a kid that can't give you away, and I don't know if that was on purpose.
mm-hmm.
The way she shot her, that I guess she couldn't have known she was going to have a stroke. So no,
No,
but
But uh, isn't this the one where the son testified against her?
he did, Danny,
Yeah,
which
he this little guy. I mean, holy shit! Can you imagine? Can you even imagine? He's like, I think he was like 7 by the time it went to trial.
I think
Um,
so. That's one thing I didn't write down was the children's ages, but Cheryl was the only one who died from
right.
her wounds.
So this boy gets up on the stand and says, "My mommy shot me."
Hmm.
I mean, holy fuck. That's
Well, and
that's one. That's a very brave young man to do
oh,
that.
yeah,
absolutely.
But having to go through that, Jesus.
I think what's just as disturbing about all this is the theory of the crime, and that is the motive in that theory of the
Oh
crime.
yeah, yeah. Let's
yeah,
let's
that
let's
was creepy.
I mean, Diane was a postal worker in Arizona before she went to Oregon, and she met a married man there, was fooling around with him, and allegedly she had this as a pattern throughout most of her life that she would use sex to, control men to get the things that she wants. But
hmm
she moves to Oregon, and when this guy would not leave his wife to follow her, that's allegedly when she killed the kids,
Well, didn't
because
she
she
say?
thought they were a problem there.
Yeah, she thought that he didn't want kids, and if she didn't have any, he would come to her.
Hmm.
Right.
I'm just
And
looking up.
and she
I'm just
also
looking up.
got pregnant while she was in jail.
Yeah. Well, she also tried. She also escaped jail and was recaptured.
Yeah.
Hmm.
She's due for release next year, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Or the
Wow.
earliest possible release is actually next year. So that's how that's how close this is.
I wonder if Danny would testify against her again to keep her in a cage. Man,
That's
that's got to be hard.
yeah. You don't really forgive that kind of thing, do you?
One of the
No.
one of the things that really creeped out everybody was she went on TV with some show. I can't remember what the show was, and was doing a reconstruction for them of the crime, and she was laughing. She was
Oh,
smiling and laughing while she was talking about what happened.
That's awful.
I believe it. Yeah, she seems to me like, another run of the mill psychopath.
She just
Yeah.
seems she's incredibly selfish. I was thinking it from the like the little boy or the girl's point of view. It's not only the violence done to you by a parent, but the other thing is also the reasoning. It's so selfish. My parent doesn't want me. I'm not worth anything to this parent. It's just horrendous.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. She's just yeah, she's just total sociopath, and narcissistic.
Yep.
Yeah,
You know,
very.
the children were, you know, impediments to what she wanted,
Mm-hmm.
and
So get him out of the way.
Pretty
and
And
much.
she's horrible.
get him out of the way and get attention at the same time.
Yep.
Um,
I'm trying to.
Absolutely.
I like trying to get into people's into people's heads, especially on this show. I like trying to and I can't. Just having so much trouble with this one. I can't. The motive seems so weak. It just seems, like hatred is a powerful motive, but I want a boyfriend. It just doesn't. It just that's weak tea.
Oh, I agree. And the other thing that really stands out about this one is the way that she decided to do it. It's not often that you see these female killers getting up close, personal, and bloody, the way that you would have to be with, a gun and shooting somebody
hmm
or stabbing them. You usually see female killers do things like poison.
Poisoners, female killers are notorious poisoners. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Except that she wanted to put the blame elsewhere,
So you
Yeah.
have
She
to make it
wanted to
look bad.
stage it.
right?
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
poor Yates, man. She drowned her kids just because she was completely off her rocker, right? And
Hmm.
this is completely different.
Yeah,
Um,
this is just stone cold narcissism. And
yeah,
that kind of answers Deadman's question. She didn't like her kids, tired of her little monsters. Well, she thought that her boyfriend was tired of them, apparently, which was enough to drive her to try to kill them.
but Kelly, it's a surprisingly frequent motivation for mothers who kill their kids, who do it because of a man, to try
Yeah.
and
No.
curry favor with a man.
Yeah. I've
Hmm.
seen that before.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to think if the narcissism, like I know it's a term that people throw around, but I wonder if anybody's actually done like a clinical analysis, a complete psychiatric analysis of her, just to see whether she was insane. Like, can you be
Well,
so sadistic that you can absolve yourself of responsibility, or is that not quite, not quite?
let me see. I'm looking at Murderpedia right now.
Murder
I'm
yeah.
I'm actually googling it too. Blah. Psychological profile of Diane Downs. Live.
Because just for example, the interview, she seemed so deluded about the whole thing. She was, like you said, the smiling and the sort of general, and she wasn't nervous or anything. She was completely calm at the hospital. That strikes me as a little bit of a, I don't know, not a psychotic. What is it?
S- um,
What do you call a person that doesn't?
Psychopath.
Yeah, like no
Hmm.
emotions, no, just clinical. I want what I want. Get rid of these kids. I'm wondering if there's a little bit of that going on.
Oh, I think there's probably a lot of it going on with
Yeah,
her, but
yeah.
could be wrong.
Or are they? Is it psychopath or is it sociopath? Is sociopath the people that kind of act like everybody else, but they really have no emotions whatsoever?
From what I've read several a couple of people who say that psychopath sociopath is two words for the same condition. Um,
Just
Hmm.
depending on if you feel that it's an environment, a physiological condition or a sociological condition.
right. Okay.
Nature
Hmm.
versus nurture.
Yeah.
So feel free with us to use either one interchangeably.
but I'm just
Yeah.
wondering. I'm just wondering if there's some of that going on because even in some of the
Absolutely.
pictures and stuff where she's being arrested or
She's
she
always
doesn't look.
smile. She's always smiling for the
There's something.
cameras.
There's just, yeah. There's something not right going on in that head other than selfishness.
Yeah.
Like there's something else going on there, and I just wondered if anybody's actually done a study of that.
Um, yeah, I'm not seeing anything about any psychological diagnosis.
Me
It just,
neither.
I mean, I'm an amateur at this, and it's fun to sit here and speculate, but it does, in my limited experience, seem like there's something else going on there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, once you think about it, I don't think it's that surprising when you see that total lack of empathy and emotion.
Yeah,
And I mean, she did, like we were talking about, take steps to try to throw up red herrings and stage the scene, which
yeah,
shows that, she's worried about her self interest or self preservation, which again goes back to the narcissism part of
yeah.
psychopathy. Which, by the way, maybe I'm wrong in this. I've always thought that psychopath carried a more violent tone about it than
Yeah,
Um,
sociopath.
that's what I'm thinking is too. And as you just mentioned, the lack of empathy is, I think that's a sociopath, and I think that's what she's. I think she's. I don't know. I don't know what she is, but there's just something not right there, other than the just being completely selfish.
And I mean, I could be wrong in terms of the science behind those two words, but to me, it always carries that tone.
Yeah,
my
no, I.
Psychopath.
Yeah,
my
the same.
yeah, my serial killer, sociopath, psychopath books have been lent out to a friend, so I don't have them to reference right now.
Hmm.
But when you think about it, even before she had the kids, when she first met her husband, even before she met her husband, she spread around. She started saying that her father had has sexually abused her, and her parents were both like, "No, we certainly did not. It's all lies." And it went, and she eventually recanted and said, "No, she made it all up." Like a normal person doesn't do that. So she obviously has something going on way before the kids.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, funny you should mention that. There's a lot of false accusations going on in college these days.
No,
Um,
yeah,
and
I
they are
don't even go there.
um, and there are a lot of different motivations for that. Usually, it's to punish someone. Um, so yeah,
So you
it's
reckon she was trying to punish her parents at the time? She was younger. I mean, it could be a selfish thing, like another example of her selfishness,
right,
punish her parents. But
right,
she did recant. I don't know. Maybe the pressure got too much, or I don't know. I don't know why.
right. Well, so every sociopath has their game, the game that they play, and
Right.
whatever, her game was obviously screwing guys.
Yeah,
um, that she shouldn't be. I mean, she got pregnant in jail, of course, so there's that. Um,
yeah. A lot of risk taking behavior, which is
risk,
another characteristic of psychopathy.
right,
Yeah.
right. So she might, whatever her deal was, but she also, I think, wanted to be thought well of. She wanted to be, sympathetic at least. And
I
and
did get
and
that.
and if she, when she probably thought accusing her family of the molestation would get her more sympathy, and if it didn't, and if that flipped on her, that would be a motivation to recant.
All
Hmm.
right. Okay.
And that risk taking behavior idea could, in theory, explain why she chose to do it the way she did, too. A lot of risk in staging a scene like that, I would think.
Absolutely.
Uh,
And she's probably not especially bright.
yeah,
um,
I didn't see anything about her intelligence.
I mean, pretty average, I would say. Average
Hmm.
to maybe a little below. I mean, she was a letter carrier.
Yeah.
She was not a professor. She was not a rocket scientist.
She wasn't a Bundy, but then she also wasn't a Ridgway.
Right.
Just your average person then.
Just an average person. So she wouldn't have been thinking through, um, what's the, what's the police going to be looking at, um, uh, evidence-wise. What do I have to do to really sell this story?
Hmm.
And remember back then we didn't have Criminal Minds showing us blood splatter and
Or
things like that,
CSI.
or CSI. So so she's basically, I guess, just imagining how it would all work and just got it completely wrong.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she was clever enough to shoot herself, but just a grazing wound. Um,
Hmm. Well,
uh,
that would still take some willpower to shoot herself the way she did. It's got to be painful.
right?
Where it
Must
was.
have been highly, highly motivated.
Hmm.
It's never mind. Okay, I mean, I know to kill your children is like, I mean, I just can't even imagine. I don't even have children, but for someone that selfish to actually then damage yourself, she must have been really, really motivated.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, this is one loony lady.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get into her head, and I just can't with this one. Like a lot of them, I don't know if I should be saying this, but a lot of them I can kind of get into their heads and maybe understand a tiny bit of where they're coming from. But this one, nope, just can't do it.
Well, and
No,
I think on top of it, you would probably be dealing with somebody here who has the emotional age of, oh, I don't know, a 5-year-old who,
true.
Actually, I would put her
pursues.
I would put her at teenage because then you get like a little bit of narcissism when puberty
Yeah.
hits. Maybe I would put her at about maybe 16, 17.
14.
Oh, I'd go lower
Yeah.
than that. 13, 14.
But we're speculating, like we don't know
Yeah.
this. Like she could have been completely, she could have read tons of books and she could have, watched tons of PBS or whatever. We don't know.
Well, I'm not talking about the intelligence part. I'm talking about the emotional part.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
EQ, not IQ.
yeah, anybody who kills their children, geez, is there any emotion at all? Like, I think there's an absence of emotion.
Well, oh, yeah, by definition there is when you're looking at a psychopath. Like, I'm pretty sure she was. So,
But yeah, I see what you mean though, like with all the interviews and the smiling and the always looking like yeah, she looks like she's enjoying the attention.
she's glib,
A little
which
bit,
is
yeah.
another trait of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now we get to come and talk about a real. If you think that shit has been tragic, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah,
No.
this one is a rip out the part of your soul type of crime when you look at it.
Yeah, this is a bad one, so you better warn people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
People,
is the
this is,
source. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I just want to give the disclaimer.
Yeah,
This,
I would do
this
that.
is, this is brutal in ways that um, nobody should have to experience firsthand. It's not
Mm.
even easy to talk about. Um, and so yeah, if you have a hard time with that kind of thing, you might want to move along now.
Yeah, this will trigger you if that is.
Yeah, it's
That's a
hard. It's
problem.
hard for me even to just think about it. It really
Well,
is.
we're talking. Okay, so we know we're talking about child murderers. This is a particularly brutal and um, just horrible child murder, and it's one particular child. And so, yeah, anybody who has had enough by now, yeah, I think Big Bang Theory was on tonight. So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
you might want to do something more cheery than this, but this is. Um,
the
let's
Sylvia
go.
Likens
The
case.
Sylvia Likens. Uh,
Indiana, 1965. This was actually the source material for Jack Ketchum's novel The Girl Next Door, if you've read it.
which was made into a movie
I did not
starring
know.
Ellen Page.
Wow, I
Yep.
didn't know that. Okay, cool. Not
It was
cool.
also made into a movie before that in 2007, which was a little bit more brutal than An American Crime, which is the Ellen Page one.
Okay.
The '07 one was just the girl next door, but Sylvia was 16 in 1965, and her parents were carny folk. Her father, Lester, and her mother, Betty. So they did a lot of traveling, as carny folk are wont to do. But Sylvia, she tried to keep a degree of normalcy in her life and, be a regular teen, do what regular teens do.
Right.
But, she had trouble making friends when she would move with her parents. And the Likens family were quite often in financial difficulty. Um, so the five kids would stay with friends and family quite a bit. Sylvia and her sister Jenny were with Betty until Betty was arrested and jailed for shoplifting. Um, so they ended up with Lester. But as the carnival season was starting that year, Lester, he knew that he really couldn't take the two of them with him. So they became kind of excess baggage to him.
Oh, plus he was also a little bit worried about the having two kind of youngish girls wandering around the circus.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. So he knew of a family with 7 kids. One of the kids was a friend of Sylvia's from her school. And that is the Gertrude Banish. I have trouble saying that.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It's a
Um,
very Polish name. Banaszewski, something like that. Gertrude B. Just leave it at
yeah.
that. But Lester would be paying them $10 a week per kid for room and board. Um, and yeah, Gertrude was later described by the police after Sylvia's murder and death that as a haggard, underweight, chain smoking woman who only fed her kids twice a day. And when she did, she would feed them soup and toast. So, and you can imagine that their house was a shithole. It was neglected beyond most people's conception of the term neglect.
Right.
Um, and when Lester was asked after all these events happened why he didn't have a problem with the condition of the house, he just said, I don't like to pry into other people's business. But
Uh,
when he dropped the 2 girls off, he told them, be tough on the girls. It's a
oh.
direct quote. But around July 10th, Lester's payments began arriving late. So Gertrude ordered her son Paul and their daughter to take it out on, quote, those girls with young asses. Yeah, John was 12 at the time, but they ended up dragging Sylvia and Jenny into the basement where they savagely beat both the girls and then sodomized them with Coke bottles.
Whoa.
And this is where it starts. And for whatever reason after this, though, Gertrude's rage focused almost exclusively on Sylvia. It was like she would project all her worldly problems onto the child, and just that child and not Jenny. Um, I'm going through my 5 pages of notes on this, but that beating was so intense that it was Paula, the daughter, broke her wrist on Sylvia's face,
Wow.
if you can picture that. Um, and let's see, they also let the neighbor girls and later the boys in to beat Sylvia. Um, and one thing that makes this case even more unfortunate and heart wrenching is that the oldest Likens girl who moved away from the nest lived only about a mile and a half from the Banaszewski house.
What?
Yeah, seriously. And somehow Jenny got to see her older sis. She told her about the abuse, but Jenny's cry for help basically fell on deaf ears. It was dismissed as a child who can't handle discipline
Mm.
initially. So,
Wow.
that went down the crapper. But, Lester's payments were never laid again after most of that. Let's see.
And and
Huh?
the neighbor kids, Jesus fucking Christ, bringing the
Yeah.
neighbor kids in to beat this girl who's tied up in your basement. Who wants to
Yeah.
do that?
I mean, this
Jesus.
gets much worse.
Yeah.
See, Gertrude had her kids throw a bucket of ice water on Sylvia before beating her every single morning. She was beat so hard, and because of the rapes with the bottles, she became incontinent and regularly wet the bed, which of course just made it worse for her when they would beat her. And there was also tell of one particular incident where I guess the whole family plus Jenny and Sylvia were out, and Gertrude forced Sylvia to stuff herself with hot dogs and condiments till she threw up, and then she forced her to eat that vomit. But like I said, it even gets
Jeez.
worse than that.
Wow.
Um, yeah. And in September, Paula came home. September of 65, Paula came home and told her mom that there was a rumor going around at school that she was a prostitute, and also that she was pregnant and didn't know who the father was. And Gertrude became convinced that Sylvia started this rumor and circulated it, of
Oh,
course.
wait a minute. She was going to school while all this shit was going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it went on.
How?
Well,
How?
it actually, this is a little bit further on, but Gertrude pulled her out of school when the beatings got so bad that there's no way they could have covered them up.
Okay.
And social services came around. And when they did, Gertrude had a letter prepared that she forced Sylvia to write that said, "I ran away."
Yeah, 'cause that's what runaways do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it was enough to, fool these people. So,
Wow.
yeah. Um, let's see. With that news from Paula about her bastard child and the whole prostitute thing, Gertrude gathered her kids, and this is where the neighbor kids come in the living room of the home, and made Sylvia strip naked. Um, there she was again raped and sodomized with a Coke bottle while Gertrude forced her to touch herself.
Jesus.
While the spectators cheered, and the males in the room then proceeded to urinate and spit on her. If you can picture that whole scene, it's just monstrous.
This is a fucked up neighborhood. Never mind this one woman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I
this is
agree.
this is this is
Either she had something on all of these people and she was encouraging them to do this, or this is a completely fucked up street.
Well, it's the neighbor kids, and there was, according to Richard Hobbs, who was one of them, he was 15 at the time,
Yeah.
there was quite a lot of pressure being exerted by Gertrude on each of them. I don't know if it was just physical
Well, that's what I
pressure
wonder.
to do
What did
these
she?
things or
How
not.
did she? Yeah. How did she manage to get them? Like, what kind of pressure did she have? What did she? She either knew something about them, or she was promising them something, or I don't know. It just seems. I don't know.
Yeah, that would make sense. Why would you go back, as
Yeah.
many of them did, if she applied, threats of violence to you?
And why wouldn't
But
you? Why wouldn't you tell it if you were so disturbed by it? If you were being
tell
pressured,
somebody.
why wouldn't you tell someone? Tell a teacher. Like I know that they're the. I think the social services guys. I think they were called in because a neighbor said, "Oh, I see a girl going into the house and she's covered in cuts and bruises and wounds." So they went to
mhm.
investigate, and that's how the. But so one person noticed out of this whole neighborhood. Why didn't these people tell teachers or someone, a cop,
you
someone?
I wonder if that might not be the case. Another case, actually, of the bystander effect in
Oh,
full force. You
oh,
see it, and you figure, other people have to be seeing it, and they're going to tell somebody.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
yeah.
it's such a shitty foible of human psychology.
I don't
Just
know these.
horrible.
But don't these days, don't you get like 500 phone calls for a crime that's committed? Maybe it's different back then, but yeah, maybe.
Well,
Well, I mean, you're talking about Indianapolis, Indiana. You know,
Yeah.
they're right outside. It's not like you're in, a bunch of packed New York tenements.
Yeah, that's
So,
true. Okay. And it was what, the 65? You said?
65.
Yeah.
This all happened in 1965. Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, a little side note, if you ever if you're ever in a situation where you need a bystander to do something for you, you don't just yell out, somebody call an ambulance. You point to a specific person and say, you call an ambulance. Because if you just shout
Hmm.
it out, then you get that same effect. Oh, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah,
Somebody's
actually,
going to do it.
yeah,
But if you point to
yeah.
Hmm.
somebody and say, you do this for me, then you'll be a lot more likely to get cooperation. Because it
No,
really, it's a
Hmm.
real
that's what they
thing.
actually. Yeah, no, I took lessons. I took I'm a first aider, like a St. John ambulance
Hmm.
trained sort of thing. And when they train you, they tell you that exact thing. Point to a specific person. Don't just yell it out. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh,
Huh.
absolutely. But, um, another thing that makes this just crappy too. I think when you look at this whole story, Lester may have been the least crappy person in it, next
Yeah.
to Jenny. But it's just horrible because Gertrude made the girls fake every single letter they wrote to their dad. So he had no idea it was happening either while he was on the road, trying to be a breadwinner.
Mm.
But
I also
yeah,
heard a story that she managed to. I don't know. I guess she was out and she met with one of her sisters by accident in town or something. And
yeah.
the sister bought her a sandwich because she was starving. She hadn't been fed in days.
Hmm.
And one of the other children in the house found out about it and reported it to Gertrude. And whew, she was accused of being a glutton and punished for that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think she did. That was apart from the one that I described earlier about them meeting her sister. I think her name was Diane.
Right.
Diana.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but from there we get to the day that Sylvia died, October 26, 1965. 12-year-old John brought Sylvia a bowl of boiling soup, and he made her eat it with her hands.
Mm.
So
Wow.
horrible, horrible burns.
Yeah.
Um, and she told him she wasn't feeling well and wanted to sleep. And she begged Gertrude to sleep upstairs and not sleep in the cellar again because it's so cold on that concrete. And Gertrude actually agreed as long as she didn't wet the bed.
Oh wow.
Um, that Sylvia asked her sister for a glass of water, which she got. And of course, this is forbidden because of her incontinence. Um, and she confided in her sister that day that she was going to die. She
Oh
knew
wow.
it. Um, and she ended up wetting the bed again after the water. Gertrude saw and flew into a rage.
And how old is she at this point?
Sylvia?
Yeah.
Or, oh, Sylvia's 16
Okay.
still. Uh, Dragging Sylvia by the hair into the bathroom where she made her eat her own shit, then down to the living room where the neighbor kids were waiting. Um, and this time, Paula's boyfriend, Coy, was there. And this is a 6 foot tall guy who has trained extensively at judo and was pissed at Sylvia for these rumors that undoubtedly Gertrude told him she was spreading the whole prostitution angle. Um,
Yeah,
he,
that I have up on the screen right now the image of that. Um,
mhm. Well, we'll be getting to that one, the image there. Um, let's see. She passed out from the beating from Coy, uh, then neighbor Richard Hobbs, the 15-year-old we were talking about earlier, um, was ordered to sodomize her or ordered her to sodomize herself, I'm sorry, with a Coke bottle, while again, masturbating like the earlier occurrence. Um, but then Gertrude had her daughters bring her a large sewing pin, metal, after it was heated onto the stove. And if you want to, bring that picture back up if you can, SK. We can show the results of what happened next.
yeah, one second. I should have had that one ready to go.
But, well, if you guys saw it, I mean, the needle was scalding hot when it was brought to Gertrude. They started carving onto her body, "I am a prostitute and proud of it," with the hot sewing needle. Gertrude evidently started it, and then she handed the needle to Richard Hobbs, who went through and finished it. And it was during all of this, during the neighbor kids signing their names literally on her body with this hot needle, that Sylvia died of shock.
Oh, while they were torturing her with the hot needle. Great.
Yeah. Which the 3 up there
Yeah.
was actually supposed to be an S. I'm not totally sure what for, but it, for whatever reason, got carved wrong on her skin.
So please tell me these people were either put in jail or horribly murdered by their jail mates or something.
Oh, we're getting to that here.
Yeah.
After she was in shock, they actually carried her upstairs, giving her a warm bath and artificial respiration when they realized she died. And Hobbs went home, called the cops from there. When they came to the house, Gertrude said that Sylvia committed suicide.
Oh my
And
God.
the cops actually bought this explanation until Jenny ran downstairs saying they murdered my sister.
Good.
So, and Jenny, I can't even imagine what kind of psychological toll this would take on a person. She was forced by Gertrude to take part in the torture.
Oh God.
And she ended up telling the police everything.
Good.
Gertrude never took responsibility.
Well,
She claimed that
no,
she was way too distracted by depression to take care of her children. Bullshit.
Yeah, right.
May 19th, 1966, she was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life. She was released in 1985 for good behavior.
Wow.
And she died a recluse in 1990, her body not being found till 1 month after she passed.
Wow.
I'm going to bet it
I hope
was
she
some
starved to
sort of
death.
house where she was a hoarder or what have you.
Yeah.
Paula got 20 years and gave birth in prison to a girl named Gertrude,
Oh
who
wow.
she gave up for adoption. Let's see, Paula was paroled in 1973, married, and got a job as a school counselor, but she was promptly fired when they found out about this history.
Oh my God. I hope so. Jesus.
Yeah. Let's see, John got 2 years in prison, later changed his name to John Blake and became a minister.
Oh wow.
Yeah. He died at age 52 of diabetes. Let's see, Coy Hubbard, Paula's boyfriend, was given 2 years. And for the rest of his life, he was a frequent flyer in and out of prison. He died at 56 of a heart attack.
Okay.
Richard Hobbs, was given 2.5 to 12 years, and he was released after 2. Died of cancer at age 21.
21?
Yep.
Whoa.
1972. And as for Lester and Betty, they don't know where they were, but there was a rumor of their suicide by standing in front of a train. I'm not sure how much veracity's in that, but there were 10 other neighbor kids arrested for this, the crimes against Sylvia Likens. But those were just the main players.
Well,
Jesus.
wow. Yeah.
This is just about leaves you speechless.
I'm having trouble. I don't like thinking bad thoughts about people, but God, I'm normally, like I'm type 1 diabetic. I have been for like, I don't know, 48 years, something like that. And I wouldn't wish this disease on anyone, but these people, all of them, anybody involved in this, all diabetics with complications, like with serious complications, man. These are evil, evil people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still don't understand. I can understand why she would do it, like just from the point. Not okay. I can't understand it, but I can kind of, from an educated point of view, I can kind of understand from just experience. But I don't understand the rest of the street. I don't.
No.
I don't get the neighbor kids. I don't get that. What did she have on them? What was going on in that neighborhood?
Yeah.
It's a fucked up dynamic.
It
No
really
doubt about it.
and I can even see it like extending beyond Gertrude to her immediate family, but outside the house to the neighbors, I don't get it.
Yeah,
You,
that's some weird. That is some weird. S- I don't know. I don't even have words for it. I mean,
have you guys ever
peer pressure
studied?
just doesn't cover it.
I
There
know.
is actually a word that could. Have you guys ever studied the concept of the folle in
N-
psychiatry?
No, I don't
It's
No.
think.
usually a folie à deux, which is a madness shared by two people. In
Okay.
French, it literally translates to a circus of two.
Hmm.
But that
Okay.
goes up. They found that it can even be held by pets, oddly enough, with certain delusions. But the folie, it goes all the way up to a folie à family
So what is it?
for
Some sort of group psychosis?
yeah. It's essentially what it is. And they found that really the only way to break it is to break the person that caused it. It's
Uh,
literally like a patient zero with it.
Bell cow kind of thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, basically, I mean, I'm not saying that was a Folea family or whatever
I
the
don't
word
know.
is for
It does.
Folea group.
It does kind of fit, doesn't it?
some sort of weird
Yeah.
Munchausen thing going on. They all, whatever she does, they all do, and then if you break her, that's it. That's weird.
Mm-hmm. It's a really interesting thing to study. I wish I still had my book on it, but honestly, I loaned it to a psychiatrist that I was seeing as a patient maybe 5, 6 years ago or more, and
Well,
never got
Mister
it back.
Doctor, whoever you are, if you're listening to this, return that book. It's rude not to return books that you borrow. It's
I
rude.
actually that actually she's dead. The
Oh,
doctor.
sorry. Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
So you're not getting the book back.
Nope. I liked her. She was a good doctor. But yeah, we don't
So,
get a whole lot of stories like Sylvia Likens on this show, and we've looked at some fucked up shit in the past.
Yeah, really. This how remind me how long did this go on?
This went on from roughly July to what did I say? October 26th was the day she died.
so all that in just like 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
By August, September, 3 months.
Wow.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, so what do we know about Gertrude? This obviously isn't. This isn't something that just all of a sudden sprung up. Here's two girls, I'm going to start torturing them, or here's a girl, I'm going to start torturing her because I'm not
Mm-hmm.
getting money that was promised me. There's something seriously wrong here. So, do we know anything about her life
I
before
didn't
this happened? Like, did
delve
she have
into that
accidents?
too deep. I'm not
I'm
totally
wa-
sure on that
I'm just
part.
wondering. There's got to be something else in her history that suggests this kind of behavior was possible.
Oh yeah. Oh, I definitely agree.
I
Something in
wonder.
there.
I wonder if it's another one of those signs of she acted completely normal and but something made her snap. That was just so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Something.
and it's almost like the presence of this one girl is what triggered her.
Well, I read somewhere that she was kind of jealous because like Sylvia was quite good looking, she was quite pretty and she was young and
Hmm.
everything
Mm-hmm.
was tight and nothing was sagging, that sort of thing. But the level of I don't know, the level of violence and the viciousness and just the complete I don't care about this as this person is not a human being to me. There's got to be something else going there than just oh she's cute. She's much younger than me. I don't know. It's just there's
Mm-hmm.
obviously something seriously wrong with this woman.
I wonder if a lot of it wasn't her feelings about kind of like Augusta Gein, where she's projecting these negative feelings she has about sex onto somebody.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, I know there were a lot of beatings, but a lot of them were very, very sexual in nature. And
Hmm.
she
Yeah,
was getting other people involved in them. And that's
And
a kind
just constant humiliation.
yeah.
but that's like a serial killer. That's kind of a like a I don't even know what the word for it is. I don't want to keep using psychosis. It's a like an absolute thing, isn't it? Like a diagnosable thing.
I'm not sure, but yeah, the beatings and the torture that she went through kind of, to me, suggests that Gertrude wanted her annihilated, that she wants her just totally gone. And by extension, what Sylvia represents to
But you got
Gertrude.
to wonder. But in that case, you got to wonder why she didn't just kill her after she didn't get the first check or whatever. Why prolong this and why bring her back to life
Well, she never,
and then let
she
her die
didn't,
again?
she never participated, did she? She always made others do it.
Yeah, yeah. She's like Charles Manson in
I was
that
just going to say
regard.
Yeah.
she's a Manson. Okay.
Somehow manipulating these kids and exercising this sort of thing over them. But with that situation where you want the object of your hatred annihilated, I wonder if she didn't get some sadistic satisfaction out of slowly annihilating that object and torturing it and making it cry out in pain the
Well,
way
there's
that she did.
definitely the sadistic part. I definitely say yes, and yeah, I'd say yes to the rest of it.
Hmm.
So I'm not sorry, I'm a historian. I don't do modern very well. With Charles Manson, his ability to persuade other people, how does he do that, and how can that be applied to her? There's got to be something similar between these two.
Well,
Well,
I mean, Manson,
I suggest, just superficially that their methods were quite different.
I
Um,
Okay.
agree. Manson used drugs to keep him in line for one.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Also sex.
Right.
drugs but he was also, he got the people to want to please him,
Hmm.
and he didn't use threats much.
Yeah.
But do we know that she wasn't offering a similar service to these young men in the neighborhood?
Yeah, that's one thing that, as far as I know, we don't know.
Hmm.
Whether it was some sort of violence that she was lording over them or what. But like I said about that, if it is true that she was lording that over them, why would you go back to the house?
Well, I'm not suggesting violence. I'm suggesting she was maybe offering them sex or some sort of
Oh,
sexual favors or promises of that sort of thing if they did what she wanted.
yeah, I'm not suggesting that you said violence there, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, it could very well be, something sex related. Or, maybe we're looking in the wrong place there. Maybe it was Paula and the kids who were luring the other neighbors in.
Yeah, maybe the kids were all sort of roughly the same age, weren't they?
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. That's one way to be popular at school, I guess. Hey, do you want to come over and beat my cousin? Like, I don't know. That's just I just don't get it. I just
Mhm.
stick to cheerleading if you want to be popular, you know?
Yeah. But, do you want to see her naked?
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
again, we're talking about basically a shriveled, chain smoking prune, you know, the
Oh,
way
yeah,
that the
that's true too.
cops described her.
Yeah. Okay, so Sylvia's parents, did they ever like bring any suit against Gertrude or how I mean their reaction, they must have been horrified or were they did they just feel
From
completely
what I saw, they kind of dropped off the face of the earth after this. I mean, remember, we are talking about carny folk.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So would imagine it'd be easier to, stay off
Yeah,
the radar.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
no, I didn't see any suits in my
Mm.
research.
You got to wonder, especially the mother, because it seems like the husband made all the decisions. Oh, we're going to give these two kids over to this, this woman, for the, for their benefit. I'm just wondering how much say the mother had and what she must have been thinking when she found out her daughter was dead.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not totally sure on that because her and Lester were separated at the time.
Oh, right. Okay. That's even worse.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
I
Well,
find it kind of a travesty that she got out when she did, too.
Yeah.
Charles Manson got life in prison. My opinion, Gertrude should have as well.
is Charles Manson an ideal? Like, is he being a model prisoner is he being a good boy while he's there?
He
No, he's dead.
he passed
Oh,
away.
sorry. He did pass away. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
forgot. Yeah,
Mm.
I do remember reading about that. Sorry.
We're gonna
No,
cover
that's
it.
it.
We're gonna cover him in the summer on the anniversary.
And
Okay.
actually, on the anniversary of the Tate murders, we're going to be covering Manson.
Okay.
So
Okay.
y'all will
Yeah.
want to tune in for that as well.
I really have to get myself up to date on modern serial killers instead of the 13th century ones.
Mhm. Yeah, I need
Well,
to dig back into Helter Skelter and reread the book before that show too.
I should really read that
that's a
actually.
big book.
It
Yeah.
is. I like Vincent Bugliosi. Too bad he's dead too.
But the only reason I like we're thinking, we both kind of were thinking Manson is because her ability to somehow control these people. And yeah, I've
Yeah.
forgotten about the police description of her. So I don't know. But I mean, okay, like personally, you don't have to answer this, but speaking as like what they were about 12, 13, 14-year-old boys,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
if you were, lonely and you didn't have a girlfriend and, the hormones, would you have taken that opportunity if she'd offered it?
The mom?
Would you even be interested in her at
The
all?
mom,
No, no,
absolutely not.
no, not a
Oh, okay.
chance.
I just
Not a
wondered. I just wondered
chance.
hormones and stuff. Yeah.
She was no MILF.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Not even close.
Now, at that age, the daughter maybe, because she was
Okay.
17.
Right?
Okay. So maybe you're right. Maybe it was the girl, the children bringing the other kids like in.
Mm-hmm.
But then they must have been under the sway of their mother, something fierce.
Mm-hmm. It very well could be. I
Hmm.
mean, she does seem like the type to be, a strict disciplinarian is
And
sort of an understatement.
kind of a mommy dearest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very controlling. Very controlling.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm
Um,
really surprised by the model prisoner thing and her being let out early, though. That's quite interesting considering everything. She was just a perfect prisoner. It's like, wow.
yeah, yeah,
Oh well. Well, I like I said, I don't like wishing ill. I don't like thinking bad things about anybody, but I'm kind of glad that karma got cleaned up most of these people.
yeah.
really did.
Yeah.
Uh,
Really good job, Karma.
Thank you.
yeah,
Because this was, you know, one of the things I think we can be really glad about at least is there's not been nothing comparable to this since that I know of.
Yeah. No.
no,
So thank God for
no.
that at least.
I mean,
Yeah.
there has been more than a few stories in the news of children being removed from absolute squalor,
Right,
um, and
and
neglect.
plenty of druggy shithead parents who kill their kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but no torture at this level.
There's also been a few trapped in their basements for 20 odd years.
Mm-hmm.
And
This is just some whole hellacious other level.
It's weird to me, or it's interesting, I guess would be a better word, how this one really sticks with you and really gets under your skin. And like I said, takes a piece of your soul. But if
it's
you
heart
consider,
wrenching.
yeah, it
It's
really is.
completely
But if
heart.
you consider crimes like Bundy's, they were even more savage and they were a greater number. But
Right.
they don't get to most people the way that this one does.
Because it just kept going.
It was sustained,
Uh
unnecessary,
huh.
abusive, brutal torture of an innocent child for months.
Yeah.
And then she died. And that was her story. That's awful. That's an awful story.
I wonder if another part of that is the personalization of the victim when you're looking at this story versus Bundy's. You don't often hear that much about the victims in his case.
Yeah, Bundy really did make the story about himself, didn't he?
Well, yeah, and the media did that too. The
Yeah.
media, gladly
Well,
bought into that.
well, because he was good on TV, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And so they just ate that shit up,
Oh yeah.
and
They
the
definitely
victims
did.
were gone. And
Yeah.
and for Ridgeway, the victims were prostitutes, so that's not interesting TV.
Well, and I mean, with this one, you're looking at a 16-year-old latchkey kid, basically, before
Yeah.
she went in.
Yeah,
But a lot of it is also you and I hate saying this. I absolutely hate saying this, but sometimes people look at it as sometimes there's some sort of stain on the victim. Prostitutes. Well,
Hmm.
they deserved it. They were prostitutes. But this girl was completely innocent, nothing going on in her life. She was just a complete innocent, and she was,
Hmm.
treated this way. So there's nothing you can hold against her at all, like anything at
right,
all.
right.
Nothing about the way she was
Yeah.
dressed, all the nonsense that people come up with
There's
to blame victims.
there's no way to
There's
minimize
nothing.
there's no way to
No,
minimize this.
no, not at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, and
And
I wasn't trying to with that. I was
no,
No,
just,
I'm not. No, I'm not suggesting that you
yeah.
were. I'm just saying this is probably a reason it sticks with you because this was a pure innocent, and she ended this
Mhm.
way. So,
and
whereas the other ones, you can kind of there's a little bit of your mind that goes, yeah, but she was a prostitute. Even if you don't want to think that, sometimes it's just there.
Hmm.
and one of the things that the media latches onto is how people die.
Yeah.
That is as much as who the person is, how they die is important to the news media
Well,
as far as
sensational. Yeah,
sensationalizing the story.
it's
Hey, if it
And
bleeds,
sensationalism
it
kills
leads, man.
newspapers.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and this this death was so awful. It was almost unprecedented, and so that would have captured the attention of editors across the world.
Yeah.
Hmm. Oh, Mr. Deadman asks S for slut. I am not sure on that. I would have to
That
take
might be.
another look to
That
find
makes
out
sense.
what that was. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, I didn't see any speculation on what that meant in Murderpedia.
Hmm. Well, there was a documentary that talked a bit about that, where Hobbs was talking about why he started carving that, but then they cut out before he got to the explanation, which was weird, I thought.
Oh, I was going to ask you that actually. Did anybody that was involved in it actually say why they did it? Did they actually do any interviews, or was any of it written down, or what did they say when they were in like on trial? Did they actually say why they did it?
Well, I know that Hobbs said that it was her threatening him, which
Okay.
I don't know if I necessarily believe.
Yeah.
Um, he talked
Like
a bit about that there are
threatening him what?
recordings. Yeah, like physically threatening him to do that, to do what
No,
they did.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, I don't know if I do either. If
What
he's not
about
just covering up for his own lack
right?
of character there.
Yeah. What about the other? Well, it's easy to blame someone else, isn't it? What about the others? Any of the neighbor kids or anything?
I didn't see any other explications on it.
Okay, that's interesting. That you would have thought someone would be all over that.
Well, and maybe that's another reason why this sticks out so is it's so senseless.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
and so
I
many
mean,
people had the chance to step in and nobody did.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, most of the stuff we cover on here could be considered nihilistic, but I think this kind of takes the cake for
Do we know
most
what
of them.
happened? Do we know what happened to Jenny?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one, actually. Jenny moved to Florida and she was married and I think a nurse.
Oh, good for her. Okay, good.
And she is, I think she's also dead now. I forget
Oh,
what the
well,
cause of death was, but.
not good, but at least she got on with her life. That was good.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So according to Murderpedia, um, the witnesses were they couldn't agree on whether the S was to stand for Sylvia or slave,
Uh,
Oh. Uh-huh.
and that one of them, the reason it turned into a three is that uh, a boy named Ricky did half of it, and then he couldn't finish, and somebody else finished it but did it backwards.
Oh.
And that's
oh,
Okay.
how it ended up being a three instead of an S.
okay.
Yeah, that's the problem there is that you have so many people, participating in that. So you have all those different thought processes going on at the same time, essentially.
Yeah. Oh God. There's no easy way to end this show.
Yeah,
No.
we're kind of on a bit of a downer, and
Yeah.
it's yeah, this
Um,
was kind of a heavy episode.
this was rough. Um,
Yeah.
but Jesus fucking Christ, we got these people in the world. Um, I, I don't know. This this
And
End it with being thankful that the people involved are all gone and they actually had kind of miserable ends.
hmm
yeah.
And Jenny got on with her life, thankfully, and yeah, that's probably the only way you can end it.
Well, and not only did they live miserable lives, but they had to live with being themselves.
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, Jesus, I wouldn't want to be those people. I wouldn't want to look in the mirror every day and know that I'm one of those people,
yeah,
right?
And another interesting thing with that, SK, the writer of the Amityville movie who I interviewed,
Yeah.
he was actually the one who wrote the 2007 Girl Next Door.
Oh, okay.
And what he said with that, he also said, I felt like that took a bit of my soul with me when I was researching it.
Yeah.
So, but he also said it was very cathartic to do these things, to get it out.
I can kind of understand both of those.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Daniel Ferrans is the writer.
I'll have to look for that. I'm not sure I'm up for watching the movie though.
Yeah.
The American Crime episode that's about this with Juno
Ellen
in it.
Page.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
very sanitized.
I was just gonna say I don't think I could watch a I was actually just thinking that word. I don't think I could watch a sanitized version, knowing what I know.
Yeah,
I don't know. It would be weird.
yeah. And we didn't even cover all of the shit that went on,
No.
Mm.
which is fine. It was
Yeah,
enough.
I think we covered enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we just end it there and say goodnight? Thank you for being on the show, both of you. I always enjoy having you on, and
Pleasure as always.
Likewise.
we'll
A pleasure.
do something a little more, lighthearted murder next week.
Oh, good. Lighthearted murder. That should be fun.
uh,
Okay? All right. Good night, everybody.
night.